Alrighty, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, a little post-Memorial Day edition of Unqualified Analysis. Shout out to all the veterans, those who have given their life for this country. I may not always agree, or most of the time, probably don't agree with the actual military motivations. No matter that factor, though, you gotta respect and you have to venerate the warrior at the end of the day because they didn't necessarily know what they signed up for in many cases. They just joined up to protect you at home there. So don't have to agree with the war. Gotta respect and love the warrior at the same time. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. I hope y'all had a good Memorial Day weekend. I know I went hiking for the first time in quite some time. And boys, it's time to ramp up for the annual trip out west somewhere for hiking. Yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. We're going to start adding that to the weekly routine. Went and saw a beautiful waterfall over in Tennessee. Went over also, did some kayaking. And I'll tell you what, kayaking is fun by itself. But when there is a gaggle of beers sitting at the end of the journey for you, you know what? It makes hiking a little bit better. So I got this lovely blister on my thumb. But otherwise, great weekend. Got to hang out with my sister, who I have not seen since Christmas time. Got to see my parents, though I saw them like a month and a half ago. Love and respect. I'm sure they're listening. But you know what? I've seen you guys recently. Sister, not so much. So, enough of that out of the way here. Happy Memorial Day to everyone. Hope you had a great weekend. We are back at it, obviously a day late because I spent most of yesterday traveling, I would say. Didn't get home until around 8:30, 9-ish when I got all settled in. Too late to do anything podcast related, so we pushed it a day. That was kind of the plan. I just may not have articulated that so well. My apologies. That being said, another classic off-season episode here. I did not have a whole lot of time to prepare other than jotting down headlines. And you know what? I think we can get a good 40 minutes out of this if we really put our heads together and try to make this thing great. But we got some college football in there, some pretty notable college football news. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Some NFL headlines. More Bill Belichick shit coming out of the woodwork, which is just good times. Also, I did say shit about 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the podcast. We are, you know what? How many years have we been doing this? Still not any good at gaming the algorithm and not cursing. Is what it is. Don't even know if it affects anything. But hey, here we are. So yeah, headline episode here. We got some things to discuss, and we'll try and get you out of here in call it a tight 45. I have been known to delineate many forms and fashions when I get into a topic that I am passionate about. But with all that said, we're going to take a swig of this Gatorade. Shout out to you, Padre, for going to get this. Love you a lot. Good stuff. Love that. Anywho's, let's get into the headlines here. So starting out, this is actually the most recent collection of headlines, but I went through, there's not a whole lot of headlines here. So I went through, picked out the ones I was most passionate about, and this one stood out beyond all others. The second part of the headline is what I'm really passionate about. I think we can get a whole lot of this first portion of the headline as well. First news from the CFB landscape here. We've got not a new playoff. It's still a 12-team for now until they go and try to ruin the sport even more and make it a 16-team playoff. We're still at least one more season of this rinky-dink playoff before we, substitute it for a new rinky-dink playoff. But instead of the top 4 seeds being the conference champions, and then the 5th seed just kind of getting ranked according to rank. They're doing away with that. They're just ranking it 1 through 12 of the teams that make the playoffs. So you still got the auto bid structure, but instead of Boise State getting an automatic first round bye, they would have been ranked in a spot where they would have continued to be in the first round of the playoff. It's just basically seeded more evenly, which I like for college football just because, well, not seeded more evenly, that's the wrong word, but seeded more fairly, because in college football, the talent disparity between teams is such to where you can't just treat it like the NFL where, hey, you win your division, you host a playoff game. I don't hate that at all for the NFL because rosters are, by and large, and there's obviously degrees to this, but the gap between the number one team in the league last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the number 32 team last year, that being the Tennessee Titans, is not nearly what the gap is between the number one team in college football, that would be Ohio State last year, being they won the national championship game, and whoever the number 32 team was. There's probably, like, in many cases, like a 40-50 point difference between those teams. Obviously, Vegas would probably set the line lower because you can't responsibly set a line that high when you're talking about these types of teams. But that's not the type of gap that there is in the NFL. It's a lot slimmer talent pool, and especially when you're talking about NFL teams, playoff teams specifically, that gap narrows even more. So even with a year where a 7-9 Seahawks team hosts a Saints team, you saw that 7-9 team won. That's not something that would happen in college football. I don't care if they played the game on Mars. I don't care if they played the game in Burundi, for that matter, if we just want to talk about someplace that's on this planet. Ohio State's beaten the hell out of that number 32 team probably 90 times out of 100, 9 times out of 10. And then the 10th time, they're still probably winning, but it's probably going to be a little bit closer when it's all said and done. When you put stakes on the line, that's just what's going to happen at the end of the day. So I like that. I don't like the straight seeding model in an NFL setting. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted, because, reasons like I just said. But in college football, you can't just be seeded the way you are because you won a conference. You have to kind of be seeded based on your talent level, much more so than you do in the NFL. So I'm coming around. Well, I wouldn't say I'm coming around. I still don't like it. To say I don't like it is strong. I'm kind of formulating this opinion as I go here. I still love college football. I think the 12-team playoff did cheapen many things about college football, and I think the 16-team playoff will do the same. But I'm a realist at the end of the day. We're not going back. The genie's already out of the bottle, and he's not going back in. This isn't a traditional genie where you do the third wish and whip right back into that bottle until somebody else rubs it all sensually. We're talking about, a genie that is totally untethered. The second you rub that bottle, he is out and he's running amok all over the world. I'm not sure if there's any legends like that, but I just talking about delineations before. That was one of them right there. Cat's out the bag, genie's out the bottle. The beans have already been spilled on the counter here. You can't go back from where we were, or back to where we were before with the 4-team playoff. We killed a fly with a sledgehammer, and in many cases, I am okay with that strategy. In this particular case, I do not like it one bit. But reality is reality. We're here. So if we are here, as I've maintained from the very beginning, if you're going to do the 12-team playoff, you might as well straight seed it. That was not the biggest gripe, but being realistic about the situation and that we're never going back to the way things were, that was my biggest gripe about the playoff seeding from last year, is that they relied too much on conference championships. It made an already rinky-dink playoff even more rinky-dink than it could have been already. So I like the straight seeding model. I do think this is probably the last year that we're going to get a 12-team playoff, because the Big Ten and the SEC have, after this year, sole control of the playoff formatting, and they can literally do whatever they want. That's not an exaggeration either. That they have, I don't know how this deal got signed. I think it just kind of speaks to the power of those two conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC. But it is actually pretty explicitly stated that starting in 2026, the SEC and the Big Ten hold all the cards, and they can literally do whatever they want. Other conferences can choose to get on board or get out, but no one's gonna get out. I mean, they literally are. It's gonna be a 2-conference oligarchy when it's all said and done, if they choose to stay in the NCAA. We'll talk about that here in just a bit as well. So I think they're probably going to expand the playoff and get I mean, this is no groundbreaking take. This is just reporting that you've seen from the likes of Ross Dellinger and those of that ilk that are very deep plugged in. Pete Thamels of the world, plugged into the college football world and have heard these things from multiple sources. Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to start getting multiple auto bids, probably 3, 4, maybe. I wouldn't be shocked if they just got 4 and had half the playoff field guaranteed no matter what. I think it'd be more reasonable to be 3, but who's going to say no? Who has the guts to say no? Who has the leverage to say no and still come out the same program that they were before? Because the only way that other conferences don't accept it is if they ultimately decide to form their own playoff. Because this is not an NCAA creation. This is its own college football entity. The NCAA just kind of steps in at the end and crowns a champion. So this is not something where if you get out and start a new playoff, it's not totally unheard of, but you're basically creating a rung between the top end of college football and the G5. You just created another subdivision event, essentially, which is like, I don't know what you want to call them. The Elite Three, that's a little too strong. The upper 3 conferences, I don't know, however you want to characterize it, that's what it would be if the ACC, Big 12, and well, goddamn, there is no Pac-12 anymore. So yeah, it's just the ACC and the Big 12. Man, I just remember that, and it really just stuck a dagger right in my heart. And that sucks. That sucks a whole lot. But the next 2, whatever you want to call them, I don't think that's an existence that you want to find yourself in. I think, especially a guy like Brett Yormark over with the Big 12. No, not Brett Yormark. My God, not Brett Yormark. He is the erstwhile Pac-12 commissioner who just, annihilated the conference, caused it to explode into a beautiful, beautiful, fiery inferno. Not beautiful, horrible, terrible inferno right before our faces. Whoever the commissioner of the Big 12 is, he's trying to survive in any way that he can. So I think he'll probably just go along with whatever the FCC and the Big Ten do. And then at that point, is the ACC bold enough to go do their own thing? I don't think so. So really, the point of all this is that, okay, I do like the seeded 1 through 12. If we're going to have the 12-team model, we might as well have it seeded according to what the actual rankings are. And it's never going to be a perfect ranking process, but it's better than seeding them based off of season milestones, essentially. Conference championships. Not all conferences are created equal, and I would say every conference is created unequal for that matter. Even the Big Ten and the SEC, there are years where the Big Ten is much stronger, and especially if you get a surprise team in the Big Ten championship, or the SEC championship for that matter, that's going to probably bring down, assuming that the favorite wins in that situation, it's going to bring down that the value of that conference, and especially if the conference is not necessarily as deep as it usually is, that can kind of dent it. But you're not going to sit here, look in my eyes, and tell me that a Big 12 title has the same value as an SEC title, because it's just, I hate to say it, but let's just call it what it is, man. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. If you haven't had it ripped off already, allow me to be the one to rip it for you. They're not the same conference, and I love the Big 12. It's some of the most fun, competitive football in the whole nation. Players don't move around quite as much in the Big 12 as they do in pretty much every other conference now. It's fun football that you can get invested in. But fun football does not necessarily mean the cream of the crop. I would say it's some of the best football to watch, but you do not have the best players in the Big 12 conference. The Big 10 and the SEC got that covered by a mile. I think they had about half the draft in this last draft class. There's no disputing. I think it was like 26 of 32 picks in the first round were SEC or Big Ten. The gap has never been wider between those top 2 conferences than the next 2. Used to be 3, and it was true even when it was still just 3, or when it was 3 conferences that were outside of the Big Ten and the SEC. So I like that they're not seeding it the way that they seeded it last year. We'll just say that. changes are still on the horizon, though. We've not reached the solidifying point. The eruption is still happening. At some point, the volcano of college football will go dormant. How close are we to that? Maybe closer than we think, but I still think we've got some major changes to go. The House settlement getting implemented will be a big step in that direction. We'll just see where this madness of playoff expansion ultimately takes us. I'm still pretty nihilistic on that, the whole direction of the sport, but for right now, the regular season remains untainted. Well, I can't even say that. Remains mostly the same at feeling-wise. So, you know what? We're just going to enjoy it while we have it, because who knows if we're going to have the same sport here in the next decade or so. Isn't that a fun topic of conversation to get us started with? My God, I can't talk right now. But why not keep it just as fun here? Because Greg Sankey sounded off with some absolute bullshit here over the last couple of days. Some of it not so much bullshit. Much of it bullshit, I would say. Notable quote from, it's a longer quote, but the crux of it is, I believe I don't need lectures from my peers or colleagues on the good of the game. So how do I put this, Greg? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Maybe not from... actually, he didn't even say colleagues. I think he just said people in general. He doesn't need lectures on the good of the game. Greg, I think you do. And let me lay out why. So there's a couple different options here for why you would be saying this misguided statement that you don't need lectures on college football. So I would counter by saying, one, either you're not educated about it and you need to be educated on how you're slowly but surely ruining the sport, actually faster than we may think, totally gutting the sport in many ways, from the proliferation of the player movement to the cheapening of the regular season, all of it that's going on. I'm not even going to include NIL in there because I don't think NIL is a bad thing. I think a lot of the stuff around it is the bad thing about NIL. No idea is perfectly good and sound in all ways, but Greg Sankey, not to mention putting the SEC and really just the SEC's interests above everyone else's interests, cutting everyone else out and basically only doing negotiations with the Big Ten at this point. It probably looks a little different. They're going to dress it up a little bit different in the media, but that's starting next year. We already laid out why. That's what the reality is going to be. The Big 12 and the ACC already pretty firmly in the back seat. It's going to be formalized starting in 2026. So we gotta get ready for that. So either you're uneducated about how you are slowly ruining college football, or you know you're ruining college football and you're choosing to do it anyways. So on the one hand, we'd like to educate you if you haven't been educated yet. And on the other hand, we can break that down into two groups. So either, and this is where we get to the crux of the issue here, folks. We're bringing it back around. So either your bosses have been telling you to do this stuff, which is exactly what's happening, and you don't care. You've decided to go along with it anyways. In that case, you need to be ridiculed and you need to be shamed. You need to, you need a lot of pressure on you. And the second option is, and this is the more fascinating option, that, you know what, if this is the reality, and my cold, dead, cynical heart does not think it is, but let's live in the optimistic universe here for a little bit, shall we? If your bosses are telling you to do it, which they are, and you don't want to do it, but you just have to because this is the job and who knows where you're going to end. It's the pinnacle of power in college football. If you're... Again, it's an oligarchy at this point. If you're either the commissioner of the SEC or you're the commissioner of the Big Ten, the world is your oyster, essentially, to a certain extent. We'll get to the crux of the issue here in just a second, but that's the more fascinating option there. And you know what? Why not just like crack it open? Because you do need to be shamed even more so. You need to feel the guilt on your soul, because just because you're being forced to do something does not mean that we can let you slide for it. We're not going to make it easy for you to ruin college football. We're going to keep letting you know that you are absolutely ruining the game slowly but surely. But you know what? I do concede that it is not entirely your fault. There is blame to go around for sure, but I would say the majority of the blame, and this is something that, I mean, if you are passionate about college football and you don't listen to Josh Pate, you're doing yourself a disservice. Josh Pate's college football show, one of the best in the sphere. I've obviously not listened to every college football show, really haven't listened to a whole lot, but he's widely regarded as one of the best voices and one of the more trusted voices in college football. I mean, as far as opinions are concerned, well-respected opinions. He's well-connected in the game of college football. Not a journalist per se, but a guy that provides a lot of very good perspective. He is pointing out, and I think it is something that is brilliantly said and needs to be shown light on more. All this criticism for Greg Sankey, and there is warranted criticism for Greg Sankey and the Big Ten commissioner, who's, his name escapes me. I'm an SEC guy. I really only know Greg Sankey's name. Sue me. Don't actually. But if you do, I got shooters on my side. Not actual shooters, but guys that got my back on my side. No violence. No violence intended. Just don't sue me. Don't sue me. Okay. Where was I even before I went off on that little delineation? My goodness. I mean, you just saw like little seedlings. Like, it was probably a 1 on the anxiety scale, but it just snuck into my subconscious. But yeah, Josh Pate correctly points out that with all of this criticism on Greg Sankey, not nearly enough attention is being put on, I mean, even in the Big Ten. The university presidents are the ones that are calling these shots. Greg Sankey is not doing things unilaterally. He has been, I mean, I don't know if he's been given direct orders to do very specific things, but I can almost guarantee that there have been many conversations with a bunch of presidents, probably all of the presidents in the SEC, and all of them are pretty much in lockstep to where, okay, we're in the Wild West of college football. We better come out on top because someone's going to, and it better be us. And that's just classic human self-interest and greed for you right there. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. And until the university presidents are forced to change their tune, and I don't really know how you do that. In theory, in a golden, beautiful universe, you would have a college football commissioner that answers to no one, that rules with an iron fist, if you will, a CEO of college football, a commissioner of college football, a guy that does not really answer to anyone, doles out punishments evenly, structures the game fairly. That's a pie-in-the-sky thought, but that's kind of what it would take to get the university presidents to stop, or force them to stop acting in self-interest by essentially not giving them the option. Until that happens, you're going to have university presidents in the Big Ten and the SEC saying, hey man, we better end up on top. I mean, hey, it's good to be in a two-man race, but we better not be number 2. That's what both of those conferences are working with right now. And honestly, I think the university presidents are pragmatic enough to say, competition is nice, but what if we work together? And that's, that's where we're at right now, where the Big Ten and the SEC seemingly in lockstep on a whole lot of things. And they're going to be the new governing body in college football here soon. So that is to be expected. We can't let them off the hook, though. We got to find a way to derail them from what they are trying to do. I don't know. Some sort of governing body has to be set up. It has to be an independent governing body, and I don't know what gets this to happen. I don't know. See, at this point, the Big Ten and the SEC are so far down the rabbit hole, they're not probably going to willingly agree to a format that takes power out of their own hands. When people get power, they rarely give it up willingly. And people in, SEC and Big Ten commissioner spots, even rarer for them to give up power, I would say. So it's something that is going to have to be enforced, like in a forcible way. It is going to have to be implemented, and it's what has to happen though if we want to save this game. And you can set up a compensation structure. I think it should probably work in tandem with the House settlement. Hell, maybe the House settlement actually implements this system itself. It's going to be legally binding. It would be the perfect place to do it if you were going to set up a administrative structure that does not exist right now. What it ultimately means, though, I mean, the SEC is not the SEC. The NCAA is largely marginalized. Hell, if you want to go even further down the rabbit hole, the SEC and the Big Ten are talking about leaving not the NCAA. I don't know why I keep trying to say the SEC. It's because I'm an SEC guy and my entire brain is consumed by that damn conference, even though I cheer for probably the worst team right now. I mean, hey, call it what it is, man. We fucking stink. But that's just kind of, that's life, funny as it may seem. Yeah, I mean, the NCAA is going to be marginalized when it's all said and done. I think no matter what, I mean, the NCAA, I don't know if they're necessarily in their death knell, because the lower level sports do still need a governing body that works as a nonprofit. I did it again. The NCAA might be unfair. In many cases, they might show favoritism, but for D2, D3 sports, even like non-revenue sports at the college level, though, I mean, you can't really talk about baseball that way anymore. I mean, you can never talk about it at Mississippi State, but for many places, you can't really talk about baseball like that anymore because it is bringing in revenue. But for the non-revenue sports and lower levels of college, there's always going to be a place for an organization like the NCAA. I think the NCAA collapsing, as sexy as that sounds, I mean, it's basically what it is I broke my wrist, can probably heal it with a cast, but at the same time, wouldn't it be easier to just chop that sumbitch off at the elbow? But then at the same time, you don't have an arm anymore when you could have just put a cast on it and just kept on kicking with a working hand. That's kind of what you'd be cutting off your arm, essentially, if the NCAA fully imploded. And I don't think that's going to happen. I just think for major sports, especially college football, it's going to have governing mechanisms that are completely separate from the NCAA at some point here. I would say very soon. And again, I think the House settlement is a perfect place to get that done. Still not finalized to the best of my knowledge. They're still negotiating. Trust me, as someone that works in litigation, these settlement negotiations can go on for quite some time. They've already gone on for quite some time, and they can go on for even longer. Trust me on that. So I don't know exactly when it's going to come down the pipe. I just hope the people that are in the negotiations recognize the need for an independent governing body to ensure the health of the sport going forward. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. I think I've probably talked enough on that topic. University presidents, man, those are the real enemies in college football. If you want to blame anybody for ruining college football, conference commissioners are not blameless in this. Their hands are not clean. But the bulk of the atrocities committed against college football are being perpetrated by the elites, those being the university presidents, who often don't give one single damn about sports. They care about money, and that's it. Honestly, if you want to see the motivations for just about anything of a larger scale in life, just follow the money. See how the money is growing, see where the money is coming from, and you'll figure out a whole lot of motivations in the world. That is my wisdom to you. And with that, we will get back into more sports as I just toss my phone around my lap there real quick. 30 minutes-ish into the podcast, I told you I'd delineate on something, and that was a big delineation right there. I think we got some good value out of the discussion, though. Rest in peace to Jim Irsay. All-time entertaining, generous NFL owner. Really the guy that you would want to beat, minus the issues, obviously well storied. He had substance abuse issues, struggled with that for basically his entire life. Fell off the wagon sometimes, but ultimately, when it came down to it, he was never greedy, I would say. I mean, regardless of how you felt about him as an owner, unquestionably one of the more fun and generous owners in the sport. He's going to be truly, I mean, this is a guy where, come on now. He went on a tour with his band that was just his buddies, and if you didn't know, Jim Irsay had one of the most impressive collections of rock and roll memorabilia in history. And I hope they auction that off for charity. I think if I had to guess, that's probably what Jim Irsay would want, is for it all to be auctioned off to charity. You're talking probably 8 figures when it's all said and done. That's the type of collection that Jim Irsay had. And he'd be taking all these iconic guitars out just with, a band of his buddies showing up at a random place. Hand Jimi Hendrix guitar to his buddy over here. Hand another, iconic bass player's bass over here. Got the drum set from Nirvana out there, or Dave Grohl's drum set or whatever. Whoever's microphone, I don't know. Steven Tyler's microphone, I don't know, man. You get the picture. All of these 7-figure value, iconic pieces of memorabilia. He would take them out on the road with his friends, with his little jam band, and they would just play covers. Essentially, he had the most expensive cover band of all time that he toured with. Tell me, if you are not a billionaire, and hey, you can even take the music part out of it. If you are just super passionate into something, you're a billionaire, you're a collector of that, wouldn't you want to be the guy that goes out and just shares that with the world? And that's the fun part. Obviously, he was a wacky dude. By the time it was all said and done, he was the driving force behind getting Dan Snyder out of the league. That's probably not talked about enough. I think he deserves a lot more credit for that. And I do say credit because Dan Snyder was a scourge on the National Football League. A truly terrible person, and somehow an even worse NFL owner. Just a complete scumbag. Stay over in Europe on your mega yacht, Dan Snyder. Personally, I don't want him back stateside. You can keep your scammy ass businesses all you want, but stay on the other side of the pond, my friend. We don't want you back. Jim Irsay just being unafraid, hey man, you got all this dirt on all these people. You showed the whole PowerPoint to all the NFL owners as a little last-ditch effort to keep yourself in there by blackmailing everyone. What are you going to do? Everyone already knows about my issues, so I'm just going to say whatever I want. And Jim Irsay stepped up to the plate when people really needed him to and said explicitly, we need Dan Snyder out of the league. I think he might have even used the word disgrace, and that's exactly what he was. Dan Snyder was a disgrace. And to be in the NFL for that long, a true NFL lifer from start to finish, basically. I mean, he grew up in the Colts organization dating back to when they were in Baltimore, became the youngest GM in NFL history. Was it nepotism? Abso-fucking-lutely. But at the same time, worked, I think, pretty much every job in the facility outside of head coach, offensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure. Offensive, defensive coordinator. I mean, no major roles, I don't think, but literally everywhere else in the organization, he's pretty much worked. Really one of the last of a breed of NFL owners, I would say, where they were true football lifers. And again, you can quibble about, how he was as an owner. He truly did not do very well, particularly towards the end of his life. He really did not make great ownership decisions. But this is a guy that would walk around carrying stacks of cash, just be handing hundreds to people. Random people going through training camp on a golf cart, chain smoking cigarettes, and just handing people stacks of cash. That, if I was ever lucky enough to get anywhere close to the level of wealth that Jim Irsay had, That's the kind of person that I would want to be, and that's what I think people should take away from Jim Irsay's life. Yes, he's a man that had his demons, but at his core, he was one of the best guys in the ownership group. And like I said, a dying breed of owner that we really, Paul Brown, that's pretty much the last straggler. I guess you can say Jerry Jones, he did build up the league. He's on just about his last legs as well. I guess Stephen Jones is going to take over from where Jerry left off. And the Colts organization is going to get into their third generation of ownership. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Don't you worry. It's really like the Bengals, the Colts, the Cowboys, and even the Cowboys. Jerry Jones was a rich man whenever he bought the Cowboys back in the day. He just made it into something even better than it was before. The legacy ownerships are dying out. So, rest in peace to Jim Irsay. That being said, looking forward to what happens next for the Colts organization. Ownership likely falls from here unless Jim Irsay is an interesting man. There's a good chance that he might have just distributed an equal portion of ownership to each of his kids, and the goal from here on out is just have the Colts be run by a board of family members. That I'm not discounting that possibility. Like I said, Jim Irsay didn't always make the greatest decisions when it came to running the building there for the Indianapolis Colts. But there is one person that's been pretty much ubiquitous over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years. She's been in the background for quite some time, but Carly Irsay, I meant to get her last name in there. Or it's a hyphenated last name. I know she's an Irsay, but she is also married, so it's hyphenated. I do not remember the other hyphenated word there. But Carly Irsay is the one that has been very, very involved. Not necessarily public facing, but incredibly involved in the day-to-day. Notably, I don't think she contributed to any of the game plan stuff, but had an earbud on the sidelines, tapped into the coaching communication, which you can quibble about. Overreach by the ownership in that situation. I don't think it probably no harm, no foul as long as they don't interfere in any of the goings on day to day. I'd probably prefer that the ownership stays out of those communications. But it's clear it's the role that Jim Irsay has been grooming for Carly Irsay is to be the next owner of the Indianapolis Colts. So that is probably where ownership lies. Frankly, I don't know much about Carly Irsay at all. She's been in the shadow of Jim Irsay, obviously just waiting in the wings for quite a while now. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed who the successor was going to be in this organization. It's just, it's the Indianapolis Colts, so not a whole lot of people are paying attention. I paid close enough attention to know that Carly Irsay is, if she's not going to be the sole owner of the franchise, she's going to be the managing partner here, going to be the president of the organization, essentially, going to be running the show there. Interested to see how or if she approaches the personnel decisions, the hiring decisions differently from Jim Irsay. You'd have to think they're different people. Obviously, Carly was raised by Jim, but Carly is Carly and Jim is Jim. So we can't really know for certain what either are going to do. And frankly, thank God Jim was different than his father. Was it Bob Irsay? Robert Irsay? I'm pretty sure it was Bob Irsay. I could be wrong on that, and I would say I apologize to that man, but Jim Irsay's dad was a grade A piece of shit. A much worse owner than Jim Irsay ended up being. So, hey, Jim Irsay, not the best owner in the world, but if trends continue like they have in the past, hey, maybe Carly Irsay becomes the best owner in Colts history. We'll just have to wait and see. That's what I'm going to be watching going forward, though, and it's not going to materialize overnight. You're going to get little glimpses here and there of how Carly Irsay is going to run things. Rubber's going to meet the road when they start making new hires. I don't know how much longer they're going to keep Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen has just been royally screwed over from day one with the quarterback that they chose in Anthony Richardson. That was just... Anyone who watched an extensive amount of Anthony Richardson in college told you it was a bad idea, and you still went ahead and did it anyways. And hey, thou reapeth what thou sow. That's just kind of where we're at in this whole thing. I think he's been royally screwed over, but at the same time, I think Chris Ballard is on the final little length of his leash here. If he doesn't produce this year, he's gone. I'm honestly shocked that he made it to this season. That's just a testament to the patience of Jim Irsay, I would say. Who's to say Carly Irsay is as patient as Jim Irsay is? So that's where rubber's going to meet the road. We really won't see the impacts and the change in direction or the change in methodology. I'm sorry, I got a classic itchy nose episode going on right now, and it's one of those things where the more you itch, the more it itches, and it's not ideal. But that's what we're doing. Looking forward to the 2026 offseason. That's where we're going to start learning a little bit more about this ownership group, I would say. You're going to get a lot of PR stuff throughout the course of this season. I'm not sure you're going to see a whole lot of impact on the way the organization is run at this point. It's pretty much all solidified. You're just building up to the season at this point. Any drastic changes now would be counterproductive in the greatest extreme. So 2026, a year from now, we will know a whole lot more about how Carly Irsay is going to run things there in Indianapolis going forward. Next one up here, we got the Bears sign guard Joe Thuney to a 2-year, $35 million extension. So I believe he is in town for next 3 seasons, which is probably a good length of the deal for him. He's kind of on the older side. And, I mean, hey, these all-pro Hall of Fame sort of offensive linemen, they do kind of stick around for much longer than you would expect. I mean, Trent Williams over there with the 49ers. Getting long in the tooth. Health has become more of an issue. But the dude is still, when he's out there, an all-pro left tackle year in, year out. I think he's, 38, 39 at this point. He's just ageless pretty much. First ballot Hall of Famer, by the way. One of the greatest tackles of all time. Right up there with a Walter Jones sort of player. He's that damn good. But that's probably a good length of the deal for him. You can never guarantee that health is going to maintain throughout the final home stretch of the career. So there you go. Ryan Poles, unfortunately, I think knows what he's doing. I'm just going to keep this one brief because, again, this is a storyline that makes me deeply uncomfortable. Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson are reportedly engaged. This has not been confirmed by either Bill Belichick or Jordan Hudson, but it is it's stuff that's been floating out there, I will say. And really the only thing I have to say about that, and this is all with the caveat, if this story is true, there is something pretty satisfying and pretty comforting, actually, to know that you can be, the greatest of all time at your profession. Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time in his profession. You can get to that point, and you can still be a complete fucking sucker, man. Honestly, that's inspiring stuff, because I'm not a sucker. And you know what? If I'm not a sucker, I too can achieve things. Even suckers achieve things. And hey, Bill Belichick, I don't know what's going on. I truly have no idea what's going on there. I'm worried for Bill, man. I'm worried for Bill. I'm not even really worried about his legacy. I'm worried about I'm worried about him getting all of his money taken from him, and I am worried about the person that's going to, if she's as involved in writing the will as she's involved in literally every aspect of his life. I'm worried about the family. I think we're going to see this thing come to a head in one way or another here in the next couple of months. I guess stay tuned if you're into this sort of messy drama. Again, this story makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to keep on moving. Bill Belichick, get some help, man. Just go on ahead and get some help. We got one more thing for you here as I continue to itch my nose because it will not stop itching. I have opened Pandora's box. And once again, I shall reap what I shall sow, and that is that's not how the saying goes, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So let's talk about this final thing here. The tush push survives another year. The final vote that they had here last week, I briefly talked about it, calling out owners for being losers, calling out teams for being losers and whatnot. But rejoice, we had an impassioned speech from Jason Kelce. We had A lot of good contributions to the conversation. A lot of very productive stuff going on, at least in my mind. Didn't escape by much, and this probably sets it up to be banned in next off season. And honestly, it might be one of those things where they just don't enforce it. I wouldn't be shocked one bit on that. I don't think they should. But the final vote tally was 22-10. Takes 24 votes to pass an amendment like this. So by the skin of their teeth, they got two votes away. Still survives to the 2025 season. The winners rejoice. They win. Again, the Vikings play the Eagles next year. I don't give half a damn. If you're voting to end this play, you are a loser. And I am unfortunately, not pleased to report, but I do have to report it for the sake of being unbiased. The teams that voted against banning the tush push, the Eagles, Ravens, Browns, Lions, Jags, Dolphins, Pats, Saints, Jets, Titans. A notable team name you didn't hear in there was the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, guys, I told y'all, it doesn't bring me any pleasure, but I do have to stick to my guns here. If you voted against this, if you voted for the tush push to be banned, you're kind of a loser. You're kind of a loser, and that I'm looking right at you, Ziggy Wilf. Ziggy and Mark, both of y'all. I know you were both, collaborating on this vote. I understand the competitive sort of fire. It's a big-time loser move. It's a big-time loser move here, and I do not appreciate it. Hey, kudos to those 10 that voted against it, though. It's at least going to survive another year, and I don't hate that. Notably, the only team on that list that voted not to ban it, that plays the Eagles next year, that will be the Detroit Lions. God, I fucking love Dan Campbell, man. I think we just assume that coaches vote on this, and I don't know if it's a competition committee vote or if the owners vote on this. I probably should be more well-read on the voting process here, but Dan Campbell, Sheila Ford Hamp probably came to Dan Campbell and was like, hey, do you think that we should vote for the tush push to be banned? He's like, no, man, that's football. We're going to beat their ass anyways. Keep them coming. I fucking love Dan Campbell, man. I fucking love that guy. But notably, 9 of the 10 teams that voted against the ban do not play the Eagles next year. Probably not a coincidence. I would say even more notable, the Sirianni coaching tree, assuming that they were all kind of in on the votes, their teams voted against it, or their teams voted to ban the tush push. So the Colts and Cards, neither of those teams voted to keep the tush push. Both of them voted to ban the tush push, which is kind of surprising to me at the end of the day, because I figured, hey, like Nick Sirianni rightly said, that play got them jobs. You can make an argument that maybe it was unrelated for Jonathan Gannon. Listen, if they don't go to the Super Bowl, he was a good head coaching candidate before that, don't get me wrong, or at least a hot head coaching candidate before that, don't get me wrong. But they don't go to the Super Bowl like they did with that first Jalen Hurts team that went to the Super Bowl. He probably doesn't get that Cardinals job when it's all said and done. It might have looked a little bit differently there. The team probably wouldn't have been as successful. Shane Steichen, he built an entire damn offense around that play, and he absolutely would not be where he is at without the tush push. And that discounts a lot of what the other stuff he does. But the tush push is, the most lethal effective play in football. So I'm a little surprised that those teams voted to ban, but at the end of the day, the winners win, the losers have lost. Unfortunately, my team has to be counted among the losers, which I don't love, but listen, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, and I have to stand my ground on this one and say Vikings. Hopefully you don't lose this year, but this is a foreboding sign, man. This is a foreboding sign when we're possibly gearing up for a Super Bowl run this next season for you guys to just be perpetrating loser moves. But hey, we'll have to see if that loser tree bears fruit. I'm hoping that dies right after this vote because, hey, big things are expected this year for the Minnesota Vikings. Big things. With that, though, Got a good 50 minutes out of this thing, guys. Hey, let's clap it up. Let's clap it up. That's a good episode right there. With that said, though, that is all for this episode. I thank you so much for tuning in wherever you're listening to it. Apple, Spotify, YouTube even. Go ahead, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the share, send it to, I don't know, just a random person in your contacts. Why not? See what happens. Maybe they like it. Maybe they say, "Who is this? I've not gotten a text from this number before." You're like, "Oh yeah, I got you back in high school like 20 years ago." Just do it. Just do it. See what happens there. Help us grow this thing a little bit. We got usually every Tuesday with these episodes. I think I might actually do a little late upload Tuesday night action here on this one. So we'll keep it on Tuesday. But every Tuesdays, this will come out, barring vacations or unforeseen things happening. Life happens, of course. But if you enjoyed, obviously, go ahead and subscribe I don't want to say subscribe on Twitter. Follow on Twitter at CalebVUA. Link is down in the description. Also, you got the email address, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Either shoot me a DM or shoot me an email. Do whatever you want. Just opine. Tell me what you think, okay? Let's open up the forum a little bit, shall we? Outside of that, though, we have wrung all the juice we can out of this orange, so thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis, as always. I have some clue what I'm talking about, but let's be honest, I really don't. That being said, one thing that I learned this week, and this seems appropriate, actually, we're going to bump this up. I got an evergreen one there. One that probably would be a little bit more applicable this week, but at the same time, I do need to address this before it becomes out of date here, because we are coming up on another major. After winning the PGA Championship over last weekend, did I already say this? I'll be goddamned, I already said this. I'm pretty sure. No. I did Desmond Watson last week, and what's his name? Janai Broom. Bad look for Janai Broom, but that's neither here nor there. After winning the PGA Championship a couple weekends ago, Scottie Scheffler now has more tournament wins, or just more wins in general, over the last 3 years since 2022 with 15, than the Carolina Panthers have wins on the football field in that time frame with 14, which should tell you the dire straits that the Panthers have been in over the last several years. Things are looking up over there. I think Bryce Young is going to have a good season this year. I think you probably pick up his fifth-year option. I don't think you want to be trapped into paying that guy yet, because he does need to show you more before you can fully commit. But I think Bryce Young is in for another solid year this year. Continued improvement. I think he's on the up and up. Hey, Panthers, not in a bad spot right now. I think Dan Morgan's doing a good job. I think the head coach there, oh God, his name is escaping me. I want to say Nick Castellanos, but that's a baseball player. That it's also not Nick Caserio. He's the GM of the Texans. I'll tell you what, man, I just totally forgot. Dave Canales, not even close, actually. Not even close. Dave Canales, I didn't get into the more detailed descriptors that we've talked about in the previous spots. Is probably good. But you know what? Rejoice. Just because Scottie Scheffler has more wins than you over the last 3 years than your wins on the football field, does not mean that things are not looking up, because things are. And I'll leave you with that optimistic note. I'm gonna go edit this thing, plug this laptop in before it dies, because we're danger close. I will talk to you guys next Tuesday. Have yourselves a good week and an even better weekend. Talk to you next time.